And we are joined again by our occasional theatre critic, Sylvia Huntley-Moore. Sylvia, welcome back again.
Thank you, Michael.
Sylvia, we've just come back from seeing a play called Collected Stories, which has been performed down there in the Viking Theatre. Your initial impressions?
Well, it was nice to go to a local theatre in Clontarf on the seafront there. And it was the first time I've ever been there, and it was a lovely theatre. It was really, really good, a lovely, intimate, small theatre, fabulous stage set. Thoroughly enjoyed the show.
Mm-hmm. It's above the Sheds, which is quite a well-known bar over here on the north side. Did you find that in any way interfered at all?
Not a bit. The Sheds is a pub, so that was very nice for those who fancy a half-time drink. You could nip downstairs and grab yourself a drink, and they even let you bring your drink back up with you.
Very civilised.
Yes, I know. I thought that was good, and there's plenty of parking there across the road and everything. So no, I thought that it was a nice idea to have combine a theatre with a pub like that. Yeah.
The play itself, it's called Collected Stories, and it's written by a playwright called Donald Marguiles. It was an award-winning play. It was nominated for a Pulitzer when it was first written in 1996 or thereabouts. Do you think it is contemporary in itself, or do you think it has dated somewhat over the past 20 years?
No, you could have been written last week. Mm-hmm. It really is a story about two women, both of them writers. One of them, when the play begins, is a well-respected, well-established short story writer who's also a university professor, and the other woman is her student, and in awe of her talent as a short story writer.
Being a university professor yourself, did you find any resonance to your own world in it, or was it completely different from Trinity College?
Oh, well, I think that anyone who teaches understands having to give feedback and marking students' works. And I thought they captured that. The writer captured that very well. I wondered if he, in fact, had a background as a teacher, because he seemed to understand having to wade through students' work and give them feedback can be quite a challenge.
My understanding is that he does a bit of teaching himself.
Well, that would explain it, yeah.
Something that we often find is that when men try to, shall we say, put words into women's mouths, or when they, even as artists, they usually draw the hands and the feet can be a bit big. How do you think Donald Marguiles did here? Do you think his dialogue between two women was authentic, or was it a male writing how he thinks two women would interact?
No, not at all. I thought it was beautiful. I loved the dialogue. I loved the relationship between these two women. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And in fact, the writer that it does remind me of, and I don't know exactly why, but it reminds me of very strongly for the beautiful portrayal of female characters, is Tennessee Williams.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. The strength of the women characters, the fact that they are not two-dimensional creatures, they're simply to be mothers to the main characters or something. No, I really felt that strongly. And interestingly, when I was thinking about that, I realised that Tennessee Williams actually had written a book of stories, of short stories, which is in fact called Collected Stories. Some strange resonance happening there across the years.
Is it worth pointing out at this stage that there's quite an age gap between the two characters? One would probably be mid to late 20s, and the other would be, what, 60s?
Was she that old? I don't know. Yeah, yes. I guess she is meant to be that old. Late 50s, maybe 50s, 60s, because they're harking back to her life as a young woman in the very late 1950s, early 1960s. Yeah. So, and if this is set in the mid 1990s. Yeah, I suppose.
But it describes a period within probably the early to mid 60s. So you're looking at about a 30-year gap, really. So
yeah.
Presumably, then the woman would be in her the older character would be in her mid 50s. I'm going to ask you the Howard Stern question. On the surface of it, the relationship is a professional relationship. One's a writer, the other is an aspiring writer. They come into each other's lives through academe. Howard Stern would say, was there, even if there's no action, is there an implied relationship between the two women, even if it's never
well, I think there was a great love, a great love between the two of them, a great respect for each other as writers, one in the full flower, you know, of her talent, the other one just emerging as a talent. It is in that sense a love story, I suppose, a love story between two women. Yeah, the extent to which it's enacted in any way, I don't know. And I didn't, not in a sexual sense, I don't think it is. But it, to me, it certainly was a story of great love and affection between two women, which was lovely to see, which was really just... As a woman, you know, and I think was it International Women's Week? Maybe
it was,
when I saw it. Yeah, all of that.
On that basis, then, I mean, the relationship ends up in a bit of a problem. I won't put it any further than that because I don't want to ruin the narrative for people who may go and see it. But
and we would hope they would.
We would, yeah. But in that sense of the word, I found, and I wonder what you thought of this, is that when it unravelled to a certain degree, it wasn't that this was two professionals, this was two humans. You did me wrong. How do you feel about that?
No, I don't. I mean, it was... No, but it was the extent to which writers have the right to use other people's lives as part of their creative process. I mean, that's a big question, isn't it? I mean, with the older writer saying to the younger one, write what you know. Write what you know. But to what extent do you know your friends? And can you, in knowing your friends, are you then morally entitled to use their lives in your work?
I understand that, and I would accept your take on that. But the bit that struck me, and again I'm implying here, and I'm just prodding you slightly, is that the essence of the story is that you took my boyfriend. Am I being a bit...
Well, she took her life, yeah, and yes. The defining moment of her life, the defining point of her life, was this relationship she had with another writer. With a real writer
as well, somebody who was a living, breathing writer, even though the two characters are not based on real people, allegedly.
No, and was it you was telling me that apparently Delmore Schwartz, the male protagonist who we never see, who's dead, in fact, when the play takes... it was Lou Reed's mentor.
He was Lou Reed's mentor, yes. Wow. Lou Reed was a student in Delmore Schwartz's poetry classes.
But that's a digression.
That is a digression. I want to move on to the two characters. The elder character, which is Ruth Steiner, was played by Breedney Knockthorne. How did you feel that Breed, who comes from Galway, played a New York Jewess?
I couldn't believe that she wasn't. Well, and I say this with my Australian accent twanging away there. I thought she was brilliant, and it's such an intimate theatre space that you're so close to them that I couldn't believe they were acting. It was they inhabited, both of these women inhabited these people, and I was sure that you know when Ruth Brid left the stage, she was going to go schlepping along somewhere. And yes, she was absolutely convincing.
Yeah. The younger character, Lisa Morrison, was played by Maeve Fitzgerald. Now, we're familiar with Maeve's work from a while back. How do you feel Maeve has progressed as an actress?
Oh, well, I loved her. The first time I saw her was a few years ago now in Basin, which I think she won the Best Actor at the Dublin Fringe for that, and rightly so. She was just brilliant. Completely different characterisation here. Other end of the socio-economic scale from the character she played in Basin, from a different continent as well. And again, she was just totally believable. And maybe I'm really a bit old-fashioned like that. I really want my acting to appear artless, to not be contrived, to not do that, and both of them, and the dynamic between them is just wonderful too. There really was a sense of a bond between these two.
You also alluded to the set. I have to ask you, Etruscan vases.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was very taken with the two groovy 1960s cylindrical vases up on top of the on top of the bookshelves, and maybe the set designer, if she's not doesn't have any, or he doesn't have a use for them. Again, I loved them. It was such a groovy set. It was really, and it worked so well. Really didn't feel that it was all packed in. You really believed that you were looking into Ruth's sitting room. Yeah.
Last but by no means least, our good friend Aoife Spillane Hinks. She was the director. How do you think Aoife brought it all together?
Oh, brava, well done. She did a great job. The fact that the set was fabulous, the music was wonderful, and I would not be a jazz lover myself, but it really was evocative. It was wonderfully evocative music. I really liked the soundscape of the whole performance, with wonderful traffic noises and all sorts of things happening in the background. I think she's a great director, and I think she's certainly a woman to watch, and I would look forward to seeing many more of her productions.
Yeah. It's going to transfer next week to. It's on until the end of this week in the Viking. But next week it's going to transfer to the Civic Theatre in Tallaght, and following that it will be in Smock Alley. Both bigger venues. How do you think it will play in the bigger venues?
Look, if you can do what they did with an audience sitting on your lap. I mean, we were in that sitting room with them. If you can be as convincing and convince me of the relationship to have kept their American accents going so perfectly, they'll have no problem at Smock Alley and at the Civic Centre at Tallaght, and they deserve to have bigger audiences. They really do for this show.
Last but by no means least, Sylvia, give it a rating out of 5 stars.
I will give it 5, simply because as a teacher, I always say, if you're going to give a mark and a student comes and says, what do I have to do to get full marks, then you should be able to tell them exactly what they need to do to improve. And I can't think of any way in which that show could or should be improved.
And we, of course, must offer our congratulations to the dramatist himself, Donald Marguiles.
Yeah.
On that note, Sylvia Huntley-Moore, we look forward to your next review, but thank you for telling us all about Collected Stories, playing this week, to the end of this week, in the Viking Theatre in Clontarf. Following that, it'll be out in Civic Theatre in Tallaght, Smock Alley, Riverbank in Newbridge, and the Dolman Theatre in Cornell's Court. So do yourselves a favour, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Sylvia.